All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Do you believe in magic in a young girl's heart? How the music can free her whenever it starts, and it's magic. If the music is groovy and makes you feel happy like an old-time movie, I'll tell you about the magic and it'll free your soul. But it's like trying to tell a stranger about a rock and roll. You believe in magic, don't bother to choose if it's junk and music or rhythm and blues. Just go and listen. It'll start with a smile that won't wipe off your face, no matter how hard you try. Your feet start tapping and you can't seem to find how you got there. So just blow your mind.
Welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the all-new X Zone Broadcast Network and the Talkstar Radio Network. If you'd like to give us a call worldwide, toll-free, 1-877-528-8255. That is toll-free throughout the U.S., Canada, Alaska, and Hawaii. And now our worldwide number is 1-800-610-7035. That's 1-800-610-7035. Email xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com. And our websites, www.xzoneradiotv.com. And you can watch, listen, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days of the year at xzonetv.com. My guest this hour is Ivan Amodai, and he's the author of the incredibly popular Magic's Most Amazing Stories. This book is based on 100-plus true stories and is a roller coaster ride through the crazy profession of magic. Now, he was born and grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and then moved to California in his mid-teens. His interest in this fantastic art started at the age of 5. After receiving his BA degree in marketing advertising and a BA degree in English, he decided to pursue his passion for performing full-time. His passion and dedication to perfection in this art has always been the fuel for his highly successful career. Joining me now is Ivan Amodai. And Ivan, welcome to the X Zone. And tell me, why is magic still so popular in today's day and age?
Thanks for having me on, Rob. You know, magic's really, really popular because everybody likes to know secrets. I think, like, for instance, secrets to losing weight or the secrets to getting rich. People want to know those secrets. Magic is full of secrets, and I think just everybody wants to know how we do our things.
You know, I can imagine that as a magician with your experience, you must have heard some crazy stories that finally pushed you over the edge to get them compiled. So was there any one story in particular that stands out amongst the 100 that you've done?
One of the stories, Rob, about Houdini. Houdini, everybody knows how famous Houdini was. If you mention the name, you know that you've heard of him.
Sure.
And the reason why he became so famous is later in my book. But the story that really set me over the edge was one of the stories that he always put out a challenge that he can escape from any jail cell in the country. And one of the jail cells in the British Isles asked him and invited him there to challenge and put him into the jail cell to see if he could get out. Well, when they locked him in and closed the door, he went to work on the lock. And usually it would take him about a half hour to get out, and an hour passed and he wasn't able to get out. 2 hours passed, he still wasn't able to get out. Third hour passed, and he still could not pick this lock. So he fell down on the door, and the door just simply swung open. And what the story was they forgot to lock it, and he forgot to check. So he was trying to pick a lock that was never locked in the first place.
Amazing. You know, when you think about magic these days, you think of Penn and Teller. They've done, you know, and then of course Chris Angel has brought magic to the minds of the younger set, and it seems that magic will never die. And I, for one, am very grateful for that, because magic allows us to live in a world of great possibilities and total probabilities, and what are magicians' greatest and most frequent things that actually go wrong? Because when you watch magic on TV, nothing ever goes wrong.
Yeah, well, if you're performing an illusion over and over in different theaters or anything that's actually moderately dangerous, I kind of equate it to, if you jump out of a plane and you have a parachute on, and even if you're the best parachute guy, it could be that one time after 1,000 jumps that the chute doesn't want to open. The same thing could happen to a magician. If he's going to get into a tank of water and he's going to get locked in there, even though he knows what he's supposed to do, things could happen. And if it looks dangerous, there's definitely a part of it that it is dangerous. And an accident can happen and you could die.
Well, my philosophy is it's not the fall that kills, it's the sudden stop.
Exactly.
Ivan, please stand by. You and I have to take our first commercial break, and we'll be back as the X Zone continues live from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the all-new X Zone Broadcast Network and the Talkstar Radio Network. 1-800-610-7035 is toll-free. Email xzone@xzoneradiotv.com and on MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com. Our websites, www.xzoneradiotv and www.xzonetv.com. We'll be back on the other side of this 2-minute break. Don't go away.
So just blow your mind.
Talking about magic this hour with Ivan Amodai, and his website is very simple. It's www.magicsmostamazingstories.com, magicsmostamazingstories.com. And where did your interest in magic come from? We know that you started magic at a very young age of 5 years old, and what was the inspiration?
I think that as a young boy, when you see magic, it really inspires you to want to do it or want to watch it. I just really wanted to do it, and I saw somebody do it at a family party, and I just decided that's what I wanted to do. As I grew older, I continued to seek it out and study, and began performing at a very young age, which I think really helps, because as you perform if you perform when you're older and you start screwing things up, people seem to laugh a little bit more than if you do it at a younger age, where they seem to kind of let you go through it. So at a very young age, I started, and it just continued on, and then it became a career. It's been great.
Tell me, are you a magician off stage as well as on stage?
No, I'm not. I think that in my regular life, my wife and kids, we do our things. I'm not always on stage. I definitely have a on and off button when it comes to my career.
Now, who are some of the writers, and what are they really famous for?
Houdini was famous for escapism,
yes.
And he was just one of the guys that has come to mind that he could escape from any box, any handcuff, any jail cell, etc. There's some other magicians that are also famous. One of them being a magician in my book named Chung Ling Soo. He is a magician that was actually American, and though he took on a character of being Chinese, and he took on that character because at the time, in the 1800s, actually in the early 1900s, he decided to become a Chinese magician and create that character, because Chinese magicians were known throughout the world as being the best. So he moved to England. He set up shop next to a theater that another famous Chinese magician was at, And he literally lived and breathed his character, even to the extent that he never spoke English in public, and he even took an interpreter with him everywhere he went because he wasn't supposed to know English. He was supposed to be Chinese.
So he played the part right to the very hilt.
Yeah, to the very hilt. Everything about him was Chinese, but he was really American.
Now, in the film The Prestige, they had a scene where the character was accidentally shot during the bullet catch trick. Did this
Right.
really happen, or was this all part of fiction?
Well, actually, the bullet catch is an extremely famous trick, and you mentioned earlier Penn and Teller actually do it in their nightly show. But the bullet catch was done back then, and of course, with the innovation of newer weapons, etc., you can elaborate more into more what Penn and Teller do with 357 Magnums. At the time, the same magician Chung Ling Soo had that as part of his act, and that was his ending act, where he would actually load a rifle. A spectator would actually point the rifle at him and shoot it, and he would catch it either in his hand or between his teeth. And the little bullet was actually marked with a signature of the person, so that you knew it was the actual bullet that was being fired. Well, Chung actually died one evening on one night that he did it. He actually died from the bullet being shot at him, and the rumor surrounds him of what happened exactly. Why did he actually die doing a trick that he'd done hundreds and hundreds of times?
That's a good question. What happened? What went wrong?
Well, the mechanism really, what had happened was there was a piece of shrapnel inside the barrel that actually wound up killing him. But the rumor that surrounds why he died is really interesting. You see, being that he was actually an American magician, he actually kind of took over a name of another famous magician, and his name was Ching Ling Fu. And so he basically modeled his name after this other gentleman. And so a rivalry kind of started, where the real Chinese magician was kind of a little upset that this new American guy comes in and tries to act Chinese and takes all my own tricks and sets up shop across the street from him. So he thought maybe the rumor was that maybe this original Chinese magician planted somebody in Chung Ling Soo's audience to manipulate the weapon so that he would actually really be shot by the gun and not it being all false.
Fascinating story. Now, why is Houdini the most famous magician of all time? Was it his skill? Was it his persona, or was it something else?
Yeah, I think Houdini's as famous as he is today because of his magic with marketing and advertising, not so much his skills. But one story in my book about when Houdini was in Europe, and he actually there was tons and tons of articles written about Houdini, about how everyone needs to see the show of the great Houdini, and there was not to be missed, and it was fantastic. Then when Houdini came to the States, he was actually billed as a top performer in vaudeville and was commanding big money, $100,000 a month in today's money, in today's dollars, working these theaters. And it was primarily because of the press that he received in Europe. But what is a very little known fact is that Houdini was actually publishing a lot of the articles that were written about himself, and he was publishing under an assumed name. So the articles that were written about Houdini were written by Houdini.
Oh, for heaven's sake! Well, that's quite a stroke of genius as far as marketing and advertising is concerned.
Exactly. And so when he didn't get the publicity that he wanted, or he didn't get the right publicity, he would write the story that he needed written and submit it.
Exonation. Ivan Amodai is our special guest. His website is www.magicsmostamazingstories.com. He is the lead author of Magic's Most Amazing Stories, a collection of incredible stories from world famous. When we talk about Houdini, going back to those days where he did his very own marketing, and we look at what's happening today with such magicians as Chris Angel. Now, people know that the feats that he does are totally impossible. They go against the law of physics. They go against everything that is common sense, and yet people are still taken in by his levitation acts. And
Sure.
he's brilliant. It's watching him is like watching a true showman, which he is. And do you think that a magician brings his career to a certain point and then walks away before people start saying, that's how you did it?
I don't think so. I think that in magic, it's a performing art. It's entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
It's the tool that we're using is magic to entertain the public, as a juggler would use his props. Magicians use their props. It's all a trick, and anybody that tells you that they can really levitate, or they can really read your mind, or they can really see through a wall, they're lying to you. It's a trick. It's just the mechanism or the technique or the method is disguised, not only technically disguised, but psychologically disguised in a way that the audience members really believe what is happening looks exactly like what it is happening, but there is quite a lot of things under the surface you don't see.
What's the name of the magician who made the Statue of Liberty disappear?
That's David Copperfield.
Now that was cool.
That was cool.
That it's impossible, but just to see it, that was cool. Now I understand in your book there's a story about an elephant that disappears on stage, leaving poop behind.
Yes. Yes. The famous Harry Blackstone. He had actually. There's two magicians named Harry Blackstone. Harry Blackstone Sr., who performed during the time of Houdini and was actually friends with Houdini. His son Harry Blackstone Jr. performed the vanishing elephant effect, and he traveled the states performing this effect. And one time in Chicago at a very large theater with 5,000 people, the trainer walked the elephant out into the center of the stage, in which panels were raised all around it, and then he would say the simple thing, "Go," and then the panels would fall down, and then the elephant would be completely gone. But at this one time, the elephant wasn't gone, and he did leave a huge big pile of poop there. And that is what happens when you work with live animals. You just don't know what's going to happen, especially if they're wild live animals. You can't tell them that they need to be in the mood in the next 10 minutes to be on stage. If they have to go, they go.
Yeah, but what happens when a 5-ton elephant wakes up and he's just not in the mood?
Well, you think on your feet. You decide, can we do this effect? Is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? Do we take it in? Do we move it out? Do we have a substitute trick? You've got to think on your feet, especially if you're in front of a live audience. You can't just have this dead time. You have to decide what you're going to do immediately. And in that one time, he creatively made a joke about it, and everyone laughed, and they cleaned up the mess and moved on.
Why is the risk of death more frequent than the audience might think?
It happens a lot.
Really?
The audience is just witnessing it at that one time, but when you do something hundreds of times, each time is probably going to happen something small or large that you have to deal with.
You and I have to take a commercial break. We'll be back after the news. Exonation, if you'd like to visit our very special guest's website, Ivan Amodai, here's the information. www.magicsmostamazingstories.com. That's www.magicsmostamazingstories.com. And he is the lead author of Magic's Most Amazing Stories. Once again, his website is www.magicsmostamazingstories.com. And we'll be back on the other side of this commercial break with the news as we continue right here in the X Zone from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the all-new X Zone Broadcast Network and the Talkstar Radio Network. My email address is xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, on MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com, and our two websites, www.xzoneradiotv.com and www.xzonetv.com. We'll be back after the news break. Don't go away.
You know, never believe it's not so. Never been away, hey, never seen a day break. Leaning on my pillow in the morning, lazy day.
Hi, this is Ken Elliott. When I'm floating around the universe, I always try to tune in to Rob McConnell.
Hi ho there, Trinity Frog on Sesame Street. When I want to find out what's going on with UFOs or ghosts, I listen to the X Zone with Rob McConnell.
This is Les Corrigan from Target Internet Development. You're listening to Rob McConnell on the X Zone Radio Show.
This is John Hogue, Prophecy Scholar, and you're listening to Rob McConnell in the X Zone.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell. Welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. Ivan Amodai is our special guest, and we're talking about magic. And Ivan is the author of a very interesting book that, if you're into magic, you've got to get it for your library. It is Magic's Most Amazing Stories. His website is www.magicsmostamazingstories.com. What are some of the most amazing stories that you have in your book?
I think some of the most amazing stories are the ones about Michael Jackson performing for Paul McCartney. I think the Houdini stories are unbelievable. There's one story I find unbelievable, which is the story about Joseph Burroughs, who wasn't really a magician. He was trying to emulate his famous idol, Houdini, and he tried to recreate his effect where Houdini was buried alive. And some foremost magicians today have actually done the trick, but Burroughs, when he did it, basically the effect was he would put himself into a plexiglass box and be lowered about 6 feet into the ground into a makeshift coffin, and then they would lower 6 to 7 tons of dirt and cement onto it, and he would need to escape from the handcuffs and shackles before all of that dried. Well, on this one day, exactly 64 years after Houdini died, which was on a Halloween, Joseph Burroughs attempted this stunt, and he didn't quite plan for the things that would happen. When the dirt and the cement was laid on top of the coffin, he didn't quite calculate the weight of it, and it crushed the coffin, it crushed him, and he died instantly.
Ooh.
Yeah, and he died in front of 150 people, including his wife and children.
One of the stories you talk about in your book is Michael Jackson's last birthday party with his family. What was that like?
My friend Rob, who actually performed, it was a private party that Jackson was giving for his son Blanket, and I believe it was a birthday party. And he primarily talks a little bit about the experience that he had when he arrived at the gate with all the people surrounding the gate and wanting to know what was going on and trying to glimpse a peek at Jackson, and him noticing that the wreath was still on the gate from Christmas when it was already into February, and it was dried and it needed to be thrown out. The Christmas trees were all dry, the plants seemed like they needed water, and everything kind of looked a little bit like it needed care. He also felt like he seemed that, you know, being as famous as Michael Jackson wasn't necessarily something that he would want for anybody else, and it wasn't something, it almost appeared like it was a curse, because simply just trying to watch a magic show out on his patio deck, there would be helicopters flying over the house to try to get pictures of them, and they would have to run under cover of their own home, and they just, even in their own private home, couldn't get the privacy that they wanted.
You mentioned Paul McCartney a few minutes ago. What's the story behind that?
Well, my friend who also performed for Paul McCartney at, once again, a private little gig at a restaurant here in Los Angeles, you know, when he arrives there, when you're setting up the gig, no one tells you who you're performing for. You don't know who it's going to be for. You just arrive, and it's very hush-hush until the very last second, until they rush you into the room and you see who it is. And that's all for security purposes. These people are famous. They can't let you know who it is. until the very last minute. But he also mentioned how Paul McCartney, being as famous as he was about as down-to-earth of a guy that you could possibly meet, and he just enjoyed the show just like anybody else would enjoy the show, high-fiving him and having a great time and being as cordial and as polite as you could imagine.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Now, tell me, we see a lot of card tricks with magicians. What's the relationship between cheating at cards and magic, if there is any?
Yeah, there's a lot of techniques in magic that have crossed over, there's a lot of techniques in cheating at cards or gambling or trying to cheat a real poker game, so to speak, that cross over to the magic world. But here's the difference. If you're going to do a show that involves doing a trick that involves a technique and you made a mistake or you flubbed it, the worst that could happen to you is that they could laugh at you, or they could you could have an embarrassing moment. But if that same thing happens and you're trying to cheat a group of gamblers at a private poker game and you flub the move, you could actually get taken out into the back and never be seen of again. I mean, this is real stuff where you get cheated in a casino or you try to cheat a casino out of money, you could be put away for a long time. That's real stuff that could happen. That has happened to people where they just didn't execute it properly and then you never hear from them again.
How much work goes into actually creating a new magic trick or a new magic illusion that hasn't been done before? And are all magicians working on these never been done before illusions at all times?
Mostly you'll find magic that's being performed. It might be a spin-off or a take or a variation of a classic effect in magic, such as the sawing the woman in half or making a woman disappear. Well, making a woman disappear is really no different than making the Statue of Liberty disappear. One's on a grander scale. A lot of work does go into it, though, because you have to make it your own. There is a lot of things, that, including myself, that I like to create completely fresh ideas, and some of that sometimes could take a year to just create the idea, create the way it's going to happen, and then go out into the field and actually perform the trick a couple of hundred times before you really have refined something to the point where you think, now you've worked out the bugs and this is a great piece of magic.
What is your signature trick?
One of my signature tricks is something that I recently created, believe it or not, and it is an effect that I talk about time, and I talk about how people remember time and specific things that happen in time and history. For instance, everybody knew where they were at exactly 9:06 a.m. that Tuesday morning when that first building came down in New York City on 9/11.
Yes.
They knew where they were. And I designed an effect around time where calculators are handed out to the audience and various numbers are punched in at random by audience members. One set of calculators here, a bunch of people type it in, another set type it in, and then those sums, after they press equals, are placed on the board for everyone to see. And the sums turn out to be, the first sum turns out to be today's date, 1/15 of 2010. And then the next sum turns out to be the exact time it is at that exact moment when I ask somebody what time it is on their phone.
Wow.
So if it's 9:33 p.m., and that number on the board is 933.
Have you ever played at the Magic Castle?
Yes, and I'll be there again in a week or two on February 1st for an entire week.
What's it like playing that venue? That's the place for magicians, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the most famous place to perform magic in the world, and famous magicians that have started their career, Doug Henning, David Copperfield, Lance Burton, all these guys have to attribute a little of their success to the Magic Castle in some way or another. And magicians from all over the world want to perform there, and it's great because only a certain amount of magicians are allowed to perform there or are qualified to perform there because they want the best of the best. They just don't want amateurs. So that being asked to perform there even once or over and over like I performed there, it's just a great honor.
When somebody wants to be a magician, what should they be willing to sacrifice? Because with any success comes sacrifice.
Yeah, I think they're going to need to decide that what it is, if they're going to make it their career and they want to play with the big boys, so to speak, the other professionals, they have to step it up to a level that is at a professional level. You got to work. You cannot just practice in the middle of your living room and think that you're going to be able to be a professional. You have to get out into the field, perform shows, and work it out there, and be entertaining. If you're not entertaining, then really it's like any art form. It's just you're utilizing the tool of magic to entertain your audience, just like I said before, a juggler or a ventriloquist or a comedian.
Street magic is making a big comeback in every city in North America. What do you attribute this to?
Can you please repeat that?
Yeah, what do you attribute the rebirth of street magic to?
You know, I think David Blaine had a lot to do with it. I think back, about 8 or 10 years ago, I think that he came on board and he made it, once again, a very mystical. His persona was a very serious persona where maybe the things were happening for real. Maybe there were no tricks behind it. Maybe he could really read your mind. Maybe he could really float. Maybe he could really do all this stuff. I think that popularity of that, I think the popularity of it being in a different setting than it's always been, not on stage, but right in front of your face on a street with no lights, no strings behind you. I think that is really making it more on the same level that everybody can understand, as opposed to seeing it on a stage and thinking there's 20 people behind the curtain helping on this illusion. It came down to a level that everybody could relate to.
You know, we talked a little bit about Chris Angel and Penn and Teller they have to be way up there when it comes to magicians of today. What have they done for magic, in your opinion?
I think Penn and Teller have brought a balance to magic where people believe that at one time magic was this, hey, you look at me, look how great I am, and look how wonderful I am, and this really mystical thing. They have brought a very down-to-earth and also their own versions and twists on magic. They have their own variation on most every classic of magic there is today, including the bullet catch. And they do the double bullet catch where Penn shoots at Teller and Teller shoots at Penn. And, you know, this is what they've done to the magic world. And I just saw them not that long ago at a town locally to me, and I talked with them. They're just down-to-earth guys who have a different viewpoint of the way magic should be presented.
What's their viewpoint of magic?
It shouldn't be the glitz and the glamour. It should be real. It should be entertaining. It shouldn't be, the props should be very normal. They shouldn't be a box you've never seen before. The guns that they use, the knives that they use, they use the American flag, things that everybody is associated to and understands, so that it doesn't seem out of place, or it doesn't seem like you've never seen that prop in your life before. Therefore, there could be something tricky about it.
Where do you see magic 10 years from now?
I hope that it continues on in a place, and that you see magic growing in a place that that new things come about, new tricks that you've never seen before, new things that have never been done. You know, unfortunately, magic has this big circle. In other words, David Blaine did things that Houdini tried to do. And when you put yourself in a box and you say you're going to stick yourself in the ground, people want to watch the train wreck. I mean, it's not that hard to think about. If you think and you say, I'm going to jump off this building, people are going to watch you do it.
Yeah.
That's what Houdini did. Houdini said, watch me get out of the straitjacket, hung 10 stories in the ground. There was an element of maybe he could die, so they wanted to watch it.
Same with Chris Angel, because he does some really off-the-wall stuff.
The stunts and the feats of personal ability, such as I'm going to hold my breath for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, or I'm going to put myself under the ground, or I'm going to do something really, really dangerous. Well, inherently, everybody wants to watch that.
Everybody's waiting for that, like you said, waiting for that train wreck to happen.
Yeah, people are going to stop and watch it.
What does that tell you about society?
Say that once more?
What does that tell you about society?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's unfortunate, but it is interesting. If there's a bullet to be shot somewhere, people are going to run to see where that bullet came from. That's just the nature of the beast.
As a practicing magician yourself and a professional magician, if one of your children came to you and said, Dad, I want to become a magician, what would you tell them?
I'd say go for your dreams. Whatever your dream happens to be, I think you should pursue it. I think everybody has a passion in their life, and I think that's what my book is about. I think it's pursuing your passion. There's going to be obstacles. There's going to be curveballs thrown at you, but I think that if you love what you do and you continue to pursue it, the money will follow, not to stress about all the other details of it. And I would encourage any of my kids, if they wanted to do it, and if they were to do it at 100%.
Why are there more male magicians than female magicians?
That's a good point. I think maybe genetically we're wired to be more intrigued with magic. I'm not really sure. I think that there are female magicians. I have a few of them, but you don't really hear or see too many of them. Typically they're relegated to being the assistants, but that's not true. There are some really great female magicians out there. Not a lot of them are as famous as, let's say, a David Copperfield, but there are out there. There's probably one for every 10.
That's because they have more common sense than the guys do, I guess.
Yeah.
Ivan, please stand by. You and I have to take our final break for this hour. X-Zone Nation, Ivan Amodai is our special guest. Here's his website, www.magicsmostamazingstories.com. That's www.magicsmostamazingstories.com, and he's the lead author of Magic's Most Amazing Stories. And we'll be back on the other side of this commercial break as the X-Zone continues from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the all-new X-Zone Broadcast Network. Don't go away. Ivan Amodai is our special guest, X-Zone Nation, and here's the information on how you can find out more about Ivan and how you can get a copy of the book, Magic's Most Amazing Stories. Go to the website, www.magicsmostamazingstories.com. That's www.magicsmostamazingstories.com. First of all, Ivan, thank you very much for joining us tonight. It's been a great pleasure talking to you. And, in this modern age of the internet, computers, high-tech gadgets, the iPhone, the iPod, do you think that the youth of today are going to miss the magic that the youth of yesterday, with all the stories about Alibaba and the 40 thieves, Aladdin and his magic lamp, magic carpet rides? Do you think they're going to miss out on these wonderful mind exploration epics that we used to have?
Yeah, I think having the internet is an amazing thing and all that stuff. Maybe they're tuned into their video games. It's probably going to be up to their parents and how they filter what they watch and what they read. But yeah, I hope that they're able to actually go back and actually pick up a book and read it, because it's different than it is today, where it's all being filtered to you through the internet and blogs and emails, et cetera, et cetera. So the youth of today, I think, they have access to a lot more information that maybe 150 years ago you could have access to. You had to pick it up yourself and go to a library and actually research it. But hopefully they actually will go to the libraries, do their research like I've done in the past, and continue on their journey to whatever career they decide to do. Magic happened to be mine, but whatever career it is, you got to put the work.
That's right. And you've got to expect to fail at one time or another, because you can't learn unless you fail, you know? Listen,
Exactly.
tell our listeners where they can get a copy of your book and where you're going to be appearing next. Maybe somebody will want to drop by and see you and say, hey, I heard you on the show.
Okay, great. Well, you can get a copy of my book at the website, which is the same name of the book.com, magicsmostamazingstories.com. And I'll be appearing at the Magic Castle. It's in Hollywood, California. It's a private club. It's probably one of the only clubs in the whole world that is left standing that features primarily magic and magicians and famous ones from all over the world. It's in Hollywood, California. I'll be there February 1st through February 7th, not only performing 3 to 4 shows a night, but also doing a book signing there and promoting the book and having a really fun time doing what I love to do.
Hey, it's been great having you on the show. I wish you much success. And who knows, maybe when you come to Toronto sometime in the near future, we'll have the opportunity of sitting down and having a magical cup of coffee together.
Sounds wonderful. Thanks for having me on, Rob.
You take care of yourself. Exonation, once again, if you'd like to get more information on our special guest, his name is Ivan Amodai. The name of his book is, well, he's the leading author of Magic's Most Amazing Stories. And the website is www.magicsmostamazingstories.com, and you can buy it right online at www.magicsmostamazingstories.com. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break as we continue from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, live and around the world on the all-new X-Zone Broadcast Network. 1-800-610-7035 is my toll-free number. Email xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com. And our websites, xzoneradiotv.com and xzonetv.com. We'll be back. Don't go away.